Greetings everyone. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone here on behalf of Metvy team. I'm pleased to have opportunity to welcome Mr. Himanshu Sumani, who will be our guest speaker for the day. Mr. Himanshu is a qualified marketeer who is presently employed with Google. He received his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and his undergraduate degree from SRCC, Delhi University. He previously worked as a summer analyst in investment banking at Morgan Stanley, where he helped with mergers and acquaintances, transactions, and capital raising for local and international customers on active negotiations and data analysis. He concentrates in strategy and operations at the moment for Google Cloud North America marketing. He's proven to be strong in all facets of product marketing, data analysis, strategic thinking, and problem solving. Sir is here to offer his valuable insight on marketing in big tech. We are indeed privileged to have you today with us, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Team Metvy, for the kind introduction. But I think we have a lot of other folks also here, right? Like some folks, and I would want to thank you all for coming. So everyone here, right, from Arpit, Gaurav, Jayant, Mahesh, Manisha, we have Neeti, Priyanshi, Rahul, Sanjeevni, Shrikant, Sham, Srijan, Tanya, all of them, and Swadhin. All of you, thank you for joining. I hope we all have a wonderful conversation here. This is supposed to be a two-way conversation. Please, I can go on for like 1 hour, but I don't think it will be super valuable for you. Instead, if it will be much valuable, not just for you, but also for everyone else, if we can have a conversation here. So thank you for having me. Before we start, just a couple pointers about like why I'm here and what's the approach going to be. So I work at Google, and you have heard my introduction, right? I am often reached out by many people on LinkedIn and even like on WhatsApp. They all ask me like one simple question: "Hey, how can I get into Google?" And I am pretty sure this would be a question in all your minds. And at that point in time, I need to explain them, right? Hey, what is marketing at Google about, right? Like what am I doing, and how you can get into Google, all those steps. So I felt it would be good for me to like record this and then maybe put out this video on LinkedIn or YouTube. And then if someone's interested in knowing more, they can actually watch this, and I can save some some crucial minutes of my daily life. That was honestly like my selfish motive, and I want to thank Metvy team for like organizing this. So I'm glad to be present here to like talk about it. Okay, and with that, let's start with the session, and like just clarifying a few things. I think majority of the folks here are like undergraduate students and some working professionals and postgraduates. All of you probably based out of India. No one seems probably joining from outside. So I'll keep the context of the conversation accordingly. I'll try to have the nuances that will suit all of you. With that, let's start with the session. Okay, let's start with the whole idea behind why we are here. So marketing in big tech, there are like two major things: marketing and big tech. I'll try to narrate this in a more story format so that you at least can remember this after this 1 hour. I feel like memory spans, like really attention spans, not enough. So I'll try to keep it in a more story format so that you'll actually try to understand. But before going there, let's just try to digest why I chose this topic, and especially I had thank you the team for like allowing me to choose this topic, because I really wanted to emphasize on these two aspects, which is what is marketing according to me. Everyone has their own definition. I'll try to highlight that one bit, right? Because I feel that informs everything what I do in my daily life. Hey, what is the definition I have for marketing? And then secondly, let's talk about, okay, what am I doing at Google? So for me, I think many people say marketing is just about like running ads and running campaigns, right? And that's what you would have like also heard, right? Maybe like, hey, that is what it is. But I think it's a extremely broad domain. So for everyone who has heard the word dhanda, right? Like I feel dhanda is just another term of marketing. So if you ask me, and I'll quote Kotler here, right? And I am inspired by what he also talks about marketing. I feel there are 4 different elements to marketing. One is creating value. Second is you have to satisfy needs. Third, you have to focus on what your market is. And fourth, very important, the profit. So let's try to like just take a few moments to understand why I'm talking about marketing and why I feel it's important as we think about getting in the depth of depth of your careers. When you talk about creating value, you are talking about doing something which will add value by innovation and creativity. right? Or let's say maybe like generating some insights with data, or like building new features with product teams. And all these things that you do on a daily basis while you are like doing product marketing at a company like Google. Uh, right. Second, if I talk about satisfying needs, that includes doing research, which will be like on ground research that you often hear before like any ad campaigns like launched, and understanding the product and the business, because only when you understand that you'll be able to satisfy the needs better. So I feel like doing the research is a very critical aspect of marketing. Third, it's about target market, and I feel many people actually don't understand this well enough. And if people would have, I think then everything would be super smooth. But the challenge I have seen in market here is that many people actually use the pray and spray approach. Sorry, the spray and pray approach. They will actually just use marketing dollars, and they will put it into ads, and then hope people will convert. Maybe run a ad on TV, or maybe run a YouTube master. The idea is that, hey, someone will convert, right? Like, I don't know what's working, but something will work. So that's essentially a big misnomer in, I think, marketing world today. And let's maybe like focus on that. And finally, which is very important, is profit. I don't think today many of these tech companies you hear, startups in India, they are even focusing on profits on a regular basis. But I feel it's actually super critical to focus on marketing, on profit. So when I talk about these four aspects, I actually want to like talk about the skill sets relevant for you if you want to venture into marketing. And you have to ask this question to yourself: would I be able to create value? Am I a creative person? Am I someone who can think innovatively to like solve any problem? Second, you have to think about, can I actually think analytically to satisfy needs of my customer, right? Like, what, understand their needs, have the guts to go on ground, do research, really be vulnerable to understand the product and say, hey, I don't know anything about this. Let me venture and try to understand what the needs are, because see, no one's like perfect. And we all try to understand what the needs of the consumer is. And then actually try to make a decision. Okay, I think I'm 80-90% sure that I understand the customer. I will now try to venture into like marketing. Do you have the ability to do that? Third, focusing on target market. Would you be analytical enough to focus on very specific niche audiences? Figure out where your audience lies. And that will also come from the research part, and understand that audience better. So can you actually figure the target audience better? Figure out who should your starting target market be, and be able to pilot with them. And lastly, I think profit, right? Like, do you have the ability to think about revenue ops? Do you have the ability to think about ROI, have understanding of finance, uh, to actually think about generating profit in the long run? So that is why I often say, right, like when I talk about marketing, it means business to me. And you may have heard like from your elders and like maybe others around you in the past, they used to say like, hey, everyone who's actually doing business, are wo to marketing kar rahe hai. And they are all just doing marketing, right? Like marketing X product, Y product. I feel that's actually equivalent of business. And that is why I have been in this space, because I feel I can do this, and I am super interested and passionate about all these pieces. So that's my explanation of why I have been doing this. And now let's talk about like big tech for a second, right? Like, what's marketing at Google looks like? How does marketing at Google looks like? And maybe we'll get into the questions after that. I'll try to like summarize it in like a few minutes. So marketing at Google is a very big company. We all know has hundreds of products. Just Google Cloud has 100 plus products. You have both B2B products and B2C products. And I feel like business changes dramatically when you talk about audience. When you're talking about a customer, which is, let's say, a consumer, an end consumer, a B2C customer, your way of marketing will be very different. Your key stakeholders will be very different. Whereas if you're talking about B2B, I feel like the approach is very different. So the reason why I want to talk about is because I hope you will be able to figure out and like help make this decision. Where does your interest lie? And maybe try to judge yourself like, hey, where should I actually get into? So B2C, I'll talk about three major business models. I'll talk about, like, we all know that, like if it's someone selling a product or service, You have Amazons of the world. You have many companies trying to sell courses online, right? Byju's there, etc. You have the second one, which is ads that Google's doing, Alphabet's doing, Meta is doing. So that's like second way of like generating revenue from B2C. And the third one, subscriptions. So these are the three major ones, right? Subscription, you have like Spotify, Netflix, all those folks. These are the three big, big ways of generating revenue. The moment I say this, you actually underlying importance, I think I'm giving to the fact that what matters the most here is product. Any B2C, any B2C business you want to talk about, what matters the most is the product. And that is why you'll often see in every B2C focused tech company, the CEO is probably a product person, because the thing that's driving the most revenue and the thing that has the biggest say in the process is someone from the product team. You have a product guy who is a CEO of Alphabet, Meta, even like you name any fan company, I think like all of them you will see is a product person. So that's where the importance of product lies. That's why I would say, like, if you are actually getting into marketing, you should come with the mindset that my major stakeholder, if I'm talking about B2C, would be a product team, and I'll have to like have very good relationship with them. Note, I'm not saying engineering, I'm talking about product management. That's different from engineering. So that's the B2C model. There are those elements. B2B, if we talk about B2B, the interesting part of B2B is it's not about volume. It's a game of few people, but getting high revenue from all of them, right? Like high revenue from every business. So in B2B, let's take example of Google Cloud. We'll be generating revenue from each of those organizations and companies. And at this point, what matters a lot is your enterprise selling skills, is your relationship building abilities. And that's where sales come into picture. And in a B2B organization, that's where you'll often see a leader is probably someone from the sales department, someone who knows how to sell very well. They may or may not be, but someone should understand selling very well. And that is how like they will be able to like lead a B2B organization. So when you are talking about something like ads or cloud, you should like have this into perspective that, hey, I'll be working very closely with sales. Am I comfortable working with sales? Am I comfortable talking about numbers? Am I comfortable being around people who would be talking about, hey, this is what's happening with me, with my clients, etc., all of that. So you have to like address those aspects. So that's a big difference around B2B and B2C. Uh, Moving on, right? Like when I talk about Google, like you have these two divisions. B2C, you have products like Search, YouTube, Maps, Gmail, Android. Like all these products are billion plus user products. So they are really driving on volume and let's say generating either revenue through ads or in some cases subscription in case of let's say YouTube and Play. Whereas you talk about B2B, you have Google Cloud, you have Google Ads. These are the two biggest products. You have some other, but let's say let's focus on Google Cloud for a moment because it's generating multi-billion-dollar revenues for Alphabet. And in Google Cloud, you have, of course, the leader is a sales guy, and you have for everyone else like B2C, you have like Sundar Pichai, who's also like leading the Alphabet group, and then for cloud specifically, you have Thomas Kurian, who's like leading our division. Okay, so I shared a lot of stuff about how Google overall structure is like from a B2B B2B perspective. I'll take 10-second break and I'll ask if there are any questions, any comments, because please help me with those. It will be super helpful for others. I'll take 10-second break. You can drop your questions either on chat or raise your hands and we can do that.
Sanjeevani, if you want to speak.
Yes, thank you. So now that you're finally on the position of marketing, I just wanted to know that do you think that is there any degree or course that you should pursue to have a good outlook on your resume or to have a real life experience of what marketing actually is? Because considering like I'm an undergraduate student, so the idea of marketing to me, as to what I see in maybe movies or series, is that you have to make pitches and write about how you can market a product better, which is I guess very different from the work which is actually done in firms. So if you could give an outlook for that, or any courses that you would recommend to do.
Okay, thanks, Sanjeevani. Any other questions? I'll continue the 5-second break.
I'll
Nope.
take a question. So what is the thing that we when we do it for the domain change, in case we are doing our undergraduate in something else, and then we shift to marketing, and that's very difficult because they want some prior expertise or they want some the relevancy of the subjects for their jobs and all. So I want to know more about that. And I think Shyam also has a question if I'm not wrong. Shyam, do you want to say something?
Yes. What are the skills which are required for a good marketer?
Wonderful questions. Thank you, Sham. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Let's take these questions one by one. I think I heard like three major ones here. One is around what kind of degrees and courses and what kind of maybe side stuff that we can actually do to understand marketing better. Second is how does the overall work look like in marketing? And finally, like again related to skill sets, right? Like which are the skill sets. Your question I think is covered in the course. Your question, right? Like which is around how to deal with domain changes, like if you're moving from marketing to something else. So let's take the question firstly about degrees and courses. Uh, if you are doing an undergraduate degree in business or in marketing, I think you are well set for it. In my opinion, as I said, you are actually preparing for business and note, like, I mean, you can actually learn the concepts, theoretical concepts, but until and unless you are in the field and try to do something, which is essentially how you like sell product and how you generate revenue out of it and like gain profit. So I don't think that anything else will like help you. You can get theoretical knowledge in many ways. The easiest way to do is like do a Coursera, like take a Coursera course. There are Google digital marketing courses available online. In my opinion, if you really ask me, I think like even a very generic course about marketing should be good enough to like start. I am a believer of progress instead of perfection. So I believe in like let's start with something, let's learn something, and then maybe try and like maybe intern somewhere in a marketing role, and then decide what you are liking and what you're not, instead of trying to like learn 50 different concepts about B2B, B2C marketing and then deciding I don't know what I really like or not like. I mean, it's so I believe in that aspect. So I hope that helps answer something. I'll go to the question of how the work looks like, right? I mean, it's a long one and I'll cover that. But talking about skill sets, I think, and what I have seen like in interviews, like which happens at Google, there are four major things that we look at. The first one is analytical ability, like analytical ability of the candidate. Are they really analytical? Can they solve problems? Can they work with us? Right? Like most people at Google are like really smart. In fact, I'll say almost all. In that case, you need to actually have good intellectual ability to like have those conversations, or like when they are like saying something, you should be able to like sharp enough to understand it, like have some good analytical ability there. And that is one trait that I often look. So how do you get that? I think maybe practice, right? Like I mean, that's where like cat exams comes in, right? Like they test a lot where you have that's basically understanding of like logic and understanding of business. Where does that lie? So that's part one. The second thing we look at is problems. It's like role related knowledge. Like, do you have marketing knowledge in the past? Have you worked in product marketing roles? Have you have experience working in any agency, creating ads, maybe running some media campaigns? So that's a very role related knowledge about marketing, right? Like if you have worked in that role, then you will have understanding of how you can like go about all this. But if you haven't worked in it, like then you have some decent marketing theoretical knowledge about what marketing is, what kind of work do we do, how do we do research, how do we like run ads, what's like STP, 4Ps, all of those. I think if you have just a decent understanding of that as a fresher, that's good start. Third we look at is like leadership abilities. People say that why, and like it's super maybe not critical. So from a skill set point of view, I think it's super important because in my opinion, if you look at businesses around the world which are generating profit, or you look at like your parents and maybe if anyone in your family is doing business, I see a lot of leadership abilities in them, being able to manage so many different stakeholders, so many different cross-functional teams, or like so many different people in general, right? Like that requires leadership abilities, that requires good communication skills, right? That requires someone who has a calm mind, who can actually manage a lot of things. That is not easy to find, or like that is hard to be excellent on, right? As humans, we all have our tendencies, and that's not easy, right? Like being able to like control ourselves and then being able to like behave and act in a really professional manner for like every day. That's a hard thing to do every day. So that's super important that we see in candidates. So that's the third thing, like your leadership abilities. And lastly, I would say it's like just a culture fit. Like that's something relevant for like almost every company, I would say, like who like you'll be interviewing with. So we often try to see, would they be googly enough to work with other people, right? Like are they humble? Would like able are they willing to collaborate? Are they willing to take initiative? So in my opinion, those are some really important skill sets. There's nothing like hard and fast about it, because at the end of the day, you are doing business, in my opinion. So you'll be working with different people, right? Like you'll be working even in like big companies, right? You will not be like creating ads yourself. You will not be actually managing a campaign yourself. You'll be often working with people who are doing that. So what matters the most is your ability to work with people in a good way. So I hope I tried answering that question for like everyone's reference skill sets. Domain changes, right? Like what happens if you are moving from one domain to other, let's say finance to marketing or something else? That's a very subjective question, depends on what your past experience and background is. In my case, I moved from finance to marketing, but it was like very early in my career, and I made that decision quite early. So I think it was easy for me. They just like negated all my finance experience and they said, okay, you have good analytical skills, and I can see that from your finance resume. So I think let's move on and maybe test other stuff better. But honestly, what I feel matters the most is like, are you really passionate about marketing? Are you really passionate about working with people, trying to solve problems and create like, and then doing business? If you have that entrepreneurial ability, and if you are actually business minded and focused on that, then I think it's not a bad choice. Marketing is probably a good one. Okay, so with that, let's go to the last question. How my work looks like, and I'll continue that and phase it to my rest of the conversation. Okay. So at Google, you will see in any product, you will especially in marketing, you have different functions. Uh, Within marketing, there would be a team who would be working primarily on brand, which is, let's say, the overall Google Cloud brand or like Google Search brand, etc. There would be a team who would be working on campaigns, like demand generation for campaigns. There'll be another team working on product marketing. There'll be someone working on PR, like customer insights, like you name like anything, you like name it. You'll have someone who would be like focused on that. So for all these different functions, you'll have someone who will be working. As an individual, I think the idea is how we can work together and collaborate together to actually build something. You will have teams who are like generating insights for you and will be giving it for your work. But at the end of the day, everything that you are doing will have an influence on someone else. So when I talk about how your work would look like, your work would essentially look like talking to so many people and making sure we are aligned on what the plan is, what do we want to achieve, and then going about it. So it's important to realize that at least in big companies, or like even in like smaller companies, right? It's not like one person driven company who will like decide, hey, this is the plan, this is what we'll do, and this is what's going to happen. Here, everything is well set. We will probably plan for the whole 2023 in like October of 2022. So that's what like all my planning has been completed for the next year. we'll plan completely for how we want to pace in how we want to pace in 2023, like what we are going to do in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So all that planning would be like previously like completed. We exactly know that by this time we want to launch a campaign, and then we'll like have a program. We'll actually like backtrack that. Let's understand if we want to launch something on, let's say, August 15th, then we need to start, let's say, 3 months early, and then we'll probably give a week time to everything, and then we'll start progressing and then keep on tracking. So what's critical is having progress, having alignment with different teams, and that will include a lot of communication, talking to different teams. So that I feel is a very important aspect. So you may not be doing analysis on a day-to-day basis. You may not be like doing some crazy stuff like rocket science on a day-to-day basis. But what's the most basic stuff is often the most valuable stuff that we ignore. Like just being able to talk to people, like, and then be like align people on a regular basis. That's not easy because everyone has their own motives. So yeah, with that, I hope I tried explaining some of your questions, and yeah, I helped with that aspect. Any other questions? I'll take another 5-second break. So there's actually an interesting concept behind why we take this break, and I'll highlight why. And this is very common even in like Japanese philosophy, right? Like one, we take a 5 to 10 second break to just show respect to the other person who has like just spoken to, like, hey, I've heard you, and yes, I want to digest what you said, and then move on. And even in Google, right, we take this 7-second break. So if there's someone who wants to say something, you can say that. Or if no one's saying something, okay, I've taken the break and then let's move on. So at least we give chance to like people to like say something, and it's important, right? Like when you are talking about communication, it's important we align, and it's not rocket science, but it's those simple small things that we need to just do better. So I'll take another 5-second break. Okay, you have Sanjeevni again.
Yes, sorry, sir.
Nice.
I just wanted to ask, so I've done certain digital marketing internships. So I always had these tasks of sending out people certain applications and getting reviews on it. For me personally, it was very irritating because after a certain time, you don't have people to actually get reviews on certain applications, right? Nobody can do it for a long period of time. Does marketing in big tech firms also have like similar jobs? Do you have to like get reviews on certain things, or like how do you keep track of it?
Okay. Srijan?
Hello, sir. Sir, I don't know whether this question is relevant or not, but just out of curiosity, like Google is such a big company, or it has such a good popularity. So why do Google needs to market their products?
Great question. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Yes, Swadhi.
Sir, could you please tell me like how should we start marketing like for any business or any small startup?
Great question. Okay. Anyone else? No one? Okay. I'll take your question, Sanjeevni, first, right? Which is you had to do a lot of applications, right? I'll say at least in product marketing, the work differs and it depends on what your role is. Most of the time, it will not be very operational. That is to, hey, go and like get reviews from people. But it will be very strategic in big tech, right? Like I am talking about, if you talk about marketing teams in, let's say, India, for like companies like Google and Facebook, you'll not have more than like 100, 200 people. And like those 100 people, right, like would be marketing all of Google's products. So if you have like just 2 people marketing Google search, or like 2 people marketing, like maybe 5 people marketing YouTube, that's not enough for you to like go and like get reviews, right? Like you have to focus on something which is very strategic. So I would say at like at this scale, you often focus on something which is strategic, and I think your ability to figure out what's strategic and what's important is the key in these roles. Okay. Now I'll go to the next question. Why Google needs marketing? Great question. It's super important also, right? Like people say, hey, you have like almost like 99% market share in search. Why does search need marketing, right? Like essentially, and by marketing here, I would say like you are meaning like why would you run campaigns? Why would you run ads? And why would you be like running ads on TV and YouTube and like try to get customer and like spend marketing dollars there? So again, going back to very basics, one is brand awareness. You want to be top of mind of customers and of everyone in like in India. So if you don't make that effort, you will fade out in some point in time, and then it will be harder to like maintain that because it's if it's completely new, like it's harder to like. So that's why you would often hear it's easy to retain people. It's much harder to acquire customers. So that's a proven philosophy, and that's where you'll see companies put so many dollars to like retain customers by referrals. They'll even give you like discounts and like they will even let's say, hey, you want some money back, you take it, refunds and all. I don't think it's an issue. So retaining customer is super important and it's cheaper than acquiring customers. So that's why one reason why we actually do is like brand awareness and like continuing that retention. Second, I feel like even for Google search, right, or even for like other Google products, we need to venture into other things. You honestly would be not using Google search for every use case that's out there. So you may have an awareness of a product, but if you go down in the funnel, you can actually have usage of various aspects of that product, various different features of that product, right? So if I talk about search, let's say today, you can search for any product online, any that you want to do shopping for. You can maybe search for a t-shirt or your mobile, like anything, right? You can actually search that on Google, but you would probably be using maybe Amazon or Flipkart for those e-commerce needs, right? So that's one clear use case where I feel I should get customers from other companies to Google, and that's one reason why we do marketing. Similarly, I can give you examples of finance. You may be going to today Money Control or let's say like some other apps to actually get information about, hey, what's happening with the market? Is it up, down? What's happening to my stocks? Instead of doing that, you can actually search on Google too. And we try to get customers to get there. So there are these various use cases why we feel like users can actually use Google search more. And that's why we actually market it. And we try to actually make sure there is ROI. So again, it all ties to the fact that we need to get profit from whatever we are doing. So can we like ensure how much revenue we are getting from those users and then market them accordingly so that we get new users. And then we know that, hey, what was the cost of getting those users and what's the revenue I'm getting from those users? And am I making a profit or not? And only when we get those profits, we try to like do more campaigns. So I hope I try to answer why Google needs marketing. One is brand awareness. Second is more usage of its different products and features. Okay, I will go to. Yes, thank you, Srijan. I'll go to the last question. It's also a nice question, Sadeep. How do you actually start marketing for startups, right? I mean, many of you are focused into doing business. I feel the best way to go about it is take a digital marketing course and just spend a couple thousand rupees and then build a website and then actually start doing it. I think there is nothing better than like learning on the process, right? Like learning during the journey. I often say this to everyone that I think, in my opinion, my journey is what matters me the most and not the goal. I am happy and I feel I celebrate success when I am able to start that journey and when I've been on that journey for let's say 1 year, 2 year, instead of like when I reach a particular milestone. So for your question, I would suggest, let's say if you already have a website, just start with like marketing that on Google Ads. It's a very simple tool, right? I mean, the tool has been made so that even someone who's like a 40-year business guy, he can understand it and he can use it. So I'm pretty sure it would not be hard for you to like understand and use it. I just created a new Google Ads account like yesterday, and I can tell you it's very easy. Just start with it. If you don't have a website, start with your own like HTML page and like you create one, and you can actually like host it somewhere, and then you start promoting it. It doesn't cost a lot. Like you'll actually learn that like one single click would cost like maybe 5 rupees. And I'm pretty sure we are like we are comfortable spending thousands of rupees and like everything else, and we can at least spend like 5 rupees and like someone who's clicking and coming to our website to see what they have done, like what I am doing, and like maybe whatever you're trying to sell. So I feel the best way to go about is start with Google Ads or start with Facebook ads. If you are selling something on Facebook, if it's an e-commerce product, start with Instagram ads. It's also they perform well, so you can actually start with them, and that's the easiest way to go about it. Just start with it. You'll probably spend maybe 1,000, 2,000 rupees, and but I think it will be better than like spending hours learning, trying to learn. Just be practical, and definitely you will actually learn. Like you'll learn.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Uh, I'll take another 5-second pause, and I see someone. Uh, anyone willing to ask me questions? We have Utkarsh. Go on, Utkarsh.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. So, sir, my question is, what inspired you to pursue a career in marketing?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the question.
Okay. Got it. Anyone else?
Um, I would like to ask, like, as you said that you were in the finance sector before you joined Google, so transferring to different domain and going into a very renowned company with a finance background and joining as a marketing. So was that hard? And like, what all challenges that you faced, or anything or sort of difference that you faced?
Okay, I'll try to answer these two questions, and they're very similar related. It's about like me and why I chose marketing and like how I got into Google. I belong to a business family. You would have realized by now. I have just learned business all my life. And as I said with the starting, I feel marketing is just about business. It's about how you can sell something well uh, at a profit, create value for your users, and maybe understand who your users are. And I have seen my family members do that well, and I feel that is something that's in my blood. So that's why I chose marketing. Uh, no such particular love or hatred against it. Like I just that I am a business person and I would want to just do business. That's a simple idea. I'm also like very entrepreneurial by nature, so it made a lot of sense to like start here and then do something of my own. Right, it's the easiest way out. To your question again, how and why I moved from finance to marketing again, it's very something similar relevant here that I was in finance and I realized that numbers are great, but I actually want to be a business person. Try to do something and like have something of my own, maybe in some time future, or maybe not today. So I felt marketing would be a good start for me. Finance is great, but you can always have someone else do that for you. It can be easily outsourced, but you cannot outsource marketing. You cannot outsource, hey, understand the customer for me. Like it's your customer and you should have the best understanding of them. You should know what their pain points are the best. No one better than you. So that's one reason. And second reason I realized I was not comfortable with the long long working hours with finance. And this is a very long challenge I have with Indian companies where I feel we often focus on the quantity of hours, how much hours we are working in office rather than the quality of hours. Uh, it's something I think we'll learn as we move from a journey standpoint. Just like I learned, I started in India and I was comfortable working like 10 hours, 12 hours. I worked 16 hours while I was in finance. So I think like over time I realized once I moved to the US, I realized I'm working only 8 hours, maybe 7 hours some days even 6 hours, right? Like I'm not working more than that. But the output I was generating was much more valuable than I had generated while I was working like 10 hours, 12 hours. And just like I realized in my journey that we are all humans. We are all machines. We are not built robots. So it's hard to maybe like digest that fact, but it's important to realize that we cannot be super efficient 100% of our time. You may think you are, but essentially, if you are talking about doing something innovative, doing something creative, that requires a lot of thought process, that requires free time. And there is like lots of example where you'll see most of the scientists did their innovations when they were like completely free, or like, yeah, they were not working, or like most of the creative stuff, innovative stuff happens when you are like completely free or not working. So yeah, I know it's slight digression to the fact that why mental health was important. And I feel it's important for even you all to realize that you'll see companies paying you much more for maybe working a few hours more. I didn't choose that. I had the option to go into consulting or finance after my IIM Ahmedabad degree, but I chose Google because I knew the work-life hours would be better and I would be working on some good stuff. So uh, I honestly had the luxury to choose that. I got my Google offer before my final placements, so that's why I chose that. And I hope I answered your question of like the domain change from finance to marketing. But yeah, that's the journey I had, and sometimes it's just luck. Sometimes it's some clear values and priorities that you have in life. So yeah, I see there's also one question on chat. So let me try taking that. How does communication play a key role in marketing? Sham, your question. I think it's super critical. Like I highlighted this in the past. It's super critical, not just in content writing or like when you're creating ads, but it's even important because you would be talking to people all the time, right? And if you're not comfortable talking to people, if you're not comfortable being expressive or being able to get your work done by talking, if you are not able to do that, then I think you should rethink why you are here, or like why you are doing marketing. Or maybe you get that maybe you get that in the course of journey, but it's something important, right? Super important. uh, and I'll talk about, it's not English that's important, or like being able to speak fluent English that's important, but it's being able to communicate in a friendly way, communicate properly, clearly. That's more important. Uh, so yeah, and there's one more follow up: how to market out business. I don't think I understand that properly. So maybe you can like unmute and ask. But before that, I'll ask Utkarsh to ask a question.
Yeah. So, sir, now, my question would be, what at this position you are right now, uh, what are the most important skills you have learned and you utilize very much at this position?
Great question. Thank you. This I was asked the same question by a senior guy, a CEO of a company recently, Indian company recently, and I said the same answer to him, that I think, and I'm pretty sure, what I learned the most over the last 5 years is people like our people skills. I learned the fact that it's absolutely not important to be the smartest guy in the room, but it's super important to be the guy who everyone can reach out to, someone who can people can actually like come to you and like talk to you. If you are the smartest guy and if you are like rude, no one will come to like solve the smartest questions and the toughest problems with you. But if you are like, even let's say, the coolest guy in the room and like someone who's like sweet enough to talk to, everyone will come to like ask you the problems. And oftentimes problems are not solved by one person. It's the combination and brainstorming that you do with others that come to like those crazy solutions. At least in my life, many of those solutions came when I was talking to people, I was talking to friends over weekends, and I'll come to like at random discussion. We'll have those random discussions. We'll come with like some cool conclusions. So I think my biggest learning has been to focus on people skills, and like not on the hard skills. Right, like though being intellectual is great, like being able to like get insights and analysis from data, it's all important, super important. You learn those, all great stuff, but that's not going to take you far. If you really want to get to the top, you need to have people skills very well.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Any other question, folks?
Sir, I have one final
Yeah,
question.
go on.
This is for a couple of days now. I'm having. I'll give you a scenario, and through a scenario, could you? I'll explain my question. So, I have probably, I have created a product for the elderly, for the ones who were in need for some cream or some kind of medicine. But in this scenario, when we had conducted a client survey, a vast majority of my clients, they don't use social media. The elderly, they don't use social media. So would you recommend to keep investing in our social media channels?
Like, I can answer that, but anyone wants to like take a stab on that question? Like, I mean, honestly, like I'll have one perspective, but you have smart people here as well, right? Like, let's hear from some of those smart people, right? Anyone? Would you be investing in those social channels?
It depends on the size of business, I believe.
Okay, can you elaborate a bit more there?
As in social media channels, I honestly believe that it works out for small business cultures, as in if you have small businesses, even on Instagram or social media sites, and even like authentic stuff, which like people settle out in different states, it is very much efficient to transport it to other businesses while social media channels. So, but again, I believe big companies cannot just be reluctant or be dependent on social media channels for marketing. So I guess it totally depends on the size of business and the enterprise, what it deals with.
Okay, anyone else wants to take a stab on should we be investing in social channels for elderly? I'll take 5-second break, otherwise I'll share my point of view. Okay, so Utkarsh, I feel you have elderly people even on social media. If you look at Facebook audience insights, you will see there is a decent chunk of elderly people above 60 who would be using social channels, right? So I would say have a custom targeting and see if your audience, if your product's working, if it's generating revenue, and if you are like having profits, then why not keep using it? If you, at the end of the day, the basic premise is simple: reach out where your audience is. Like, reach out to your audience and reach out to them in the best way possible. So if your audience is on social media and they are using it and you can reach out to them in an efficient way, why not?
Okay.
I know from, let's say, Google data that, hey, there are enough uh, like people who are quite aged on social channels, and even like you would see your grandparents and like other people in your family who are, let's say, above 60 would be using phones, right? Like they would all be using various channels. So think about it, right? Like think about what channels they use and what would be a good way to actually reach them. At the end of the day, it's like very simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I hope that's good. I see there's one more question, right? Like Mehul, what are the important skills you have learned that you would utilize in this position? Some tangible skills, I'll say. My current role, if anyone's not aware, I actually work on strategy and operations pieces for Google Cloud in North America. So when it comes to that, I think one super important is problem solving, analytical thinking, right? Like things that I talked about, those skill sets. But something very tangible, hard is data analysis. And doing that data analysis requires you to understand some languages like SQL and maybe be good in uh, presentation skills and be good in like using spreadsheets, be it Google Sheets or Excel. So I think one important skill set you should learn is SQL and Python analysis, or like just data analysis in general. And SQL would be a good way to start with if you can like use if you know how to like query using SQL or like MySQL, etc. That would be a good start. Otherwise, Excel is great. You all should be very, very proficient in Excel. There's no reason why you should not be. Let me leave no doubt. Apart from people skills, if there is anything tangible and hard that will continue in future, that will be the driving factor, that will be the differentiating factor for like most of your lives, it will be data. And it will be your ability to understand that data better. So there is that saying, right? Data is a new oil, and it's not. Data is a new oil, and it's not set for like no reason. It is super important. Okay, I hope I answered that question. And okay, one more question, Utkarsh. Go on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've asked too many questions, but sir, Does human psychology play a vital role in marketing?
Wonderful, wonderful question, by the way. And there is no such thing as too many questions. Curiosity is something that I love. I'll go back to the theory here, right? Like if you talk about marketing, you need to understand the user. You need to understand the how you are creating values and how you're creating like some like understanding their need and creating value. And that is basically human psychology in my like opinion. So if you can understand what consumer psychology is, you will be able to understand how they are behaving, what their need is, and where do I see value. So, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say if you understand human psychology that, hey, during holidays and during birthdays and anniversaries, people increasingly want to give customized gift today. Something, let's say, which is relevant for you or your family, or something like, let's say, whose birthday it is, you want to give them a custom mug with their photo or something like that, or maybe a calendar with some custom photos that you too have, right? Now you have a business idea here. You see, this is an interesting trend that's coming up. You understand that this is a market which you can cater. You create an online website where you can create such custom swags, maybe custom t-shirts, custom coffee mugs, custom calendars, and then hey, you have a business model here. So, and by the way, you will see many business models are working in this space today. So maybe you can in the US and you can create something similar if you want in India.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one follow-up question to that.
Yep.
So, as I just asked, as human psychology is vital in marketing, is also, is persuasion, persuading someone in negotiation is also as vital as human psychology in marketing?
Yeah. So marketing involves B2B,
Yeah.
and B2B world would not survive without negotiation.
So,
So any sales, yeah.
yeah. So customer behavior, customer psychology is very much related to persuasion and negotiation
Yeah.
in the marketing field, in the marketing environment.
Yes, and there are courses. There are courses on and on marketing psychology and consumer behavior
Mhm.
in top colleges when you are pursuing, let's say, marketing
Okay.
degrees.
So would you say yes to the statement which I have made?
Yes, of course. Like it's
Fine.
consumer psychology is super important.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay, I see we're almost on time. So, any final questions, folks? And it was a wonderful, wonderful group. Thank you for being super communicative and like so. Yeah, really great conversation, and you all were super active. So wonderful. Any other last questions? I'll take a pause.
Yes, sir. So I'm
Yes.
Jen. I have a startup in which we just completed the Proto 1 part, and now we are heading towards the marketing part of it. So what we do is we design the thermoregulator fabrics and the jackets. I guess you will be knowing about those things. What it does is it cools and it heats as per your wish, to be defining in a very short way on your fingertips. So I wanted to know, how can I start marketing of my product to people? Like since I'm a engineering guy and I don't have marketing background with me, it's a really big question for me.
Okay, hi Joanne. Thank you for that question. Firstly, I had no idea what thermoregulator jackets meant.
Okay, shall I
Until
brief you
you,
what it does?
yeah,
So
I think I get it now. It will try to regulate your temperature of the jacket and try to keep
yeah,
you cold. And
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So I get it now. Firstly, this is probably a very similar situation for many engineers, right? Like you'll say, "Hey, I don't know marketing. I haven't studied it." And it's the same thing for, let's say, marketers who would say, or like business folks would say, "I have never done coding. I don't know how to build a website, or like I don't know how to like create apps." So if you know how easy it is to create websites and app, you should know something similar. It's similarly easy to like start a Google Ads business or like start digital marketing.
Okay.
It's absolutely not complicated. Just like you have everything almost sorted, you have WordPress and you can use like no code platforms to like create a website. Similarly, you have something like Google Ads and like you have Facebook ads where you can actually go and like start promoting your product. start with very simple stuff. Start with just 1,000 rupees and like have start like sending 1 or 2 ads, like maybe like create 1 or 2 ads and then start seeing what's working and what's not working. I think the best way for like I would suggest is test and trial, keep trying, and then you'll actually see that these ads work better. And I think it's better to like start and have some progress instead of thinking on, hey, what's going to work.
Yes, sir.
But if you still feel you cannot do everything else, that's where your friends are. I'm sure you'll have a friend who would have done business, who would have studied business and would be willing to like maybe understand that and then take time to like do that. So maybe it's all about teamwork, and that's why I say you cannot solve big problems all by yourself. It's easy to like sometimes work in team.
Yeah, yes, sir. We'll do that.
Okay, wonderful audience. Thank you very much for all your questions. Thank you for taking out and staying for like 1 hour with me. It's been a great time with all of you. Thank you very much.